Hello, and Happy New Year. This is Paul from RankWyz. Today we released a feature that, in my opinion, will greatly improve usability of RankWyz for many of our members, whether you a long-time RankWyz member or new to RankWyz. It might be very useful to quick start with RankWyz or as a supplemental strategy with your existing RankWyz setup. It is a RankWyz managed network, and if you remember, we already launched managed networks several months ago, and while it was very popular with some users, so we thought that we can improve it to make it more useful and today this redesigned shared managed network launched. Before we go into this, so we have now scenario, completely different scenario, using your own networks versus shared networks. And obviously the fair question is which way the pros and cons of each approach. For own networks, it is, and this was the long-term, the original idea of RankWyz, of building your own networks, Web2 networks, and the benefits is long-term SEO benefit. You can build blog authority over time. You own those blogs or social bookmarking accounts. You have 100% control over the content. You control over posting frequency. Basically, it's a long-term investment, and lots of our users have benefits of owning thousands and thousands of very high page authority Web2 properties that they successfully use and they SEO for themselves or for their clients. And but obviously there are drawbacks on this approach. It's not a easy start solution. Overall, link building is no longer a quick start. There's no quick start solution for link building. So it's requires step of creating authority and only then building links from the authority pages, authority blogs. So for shared networks, the benefits would be quick start. So it's easy, quick. It's literally very quick start solution. So you will be posting over aged blogs or social accounts. They're all grouped in niches, so basically you don't really so you select a niche and you will be posting your content, your links into relevant blogs. I mean, in terms of content, you have no maintenance effort, and this is where that many our users who start with RankWyz realize that it's not really hands-off service, because you have to monitor your blogs, you have to replace suspended or deleted accounts. A huge variety, a huge number of blogs per network. As you know, SEO, you only can get so much SEO benefits posting your links over and over to the same blog. So in our case, we created networks with 10,000 blogs or accounts per network, and that creates a huge variety of accounts you can post it to. Themed content, and this is critical to make sure that to give you peace of mind, so that once you post, let's say in a health network, anyone else is also posting the health related content and there's no irrelevant content. And overall, shared networks are great for lower tier, um, where you're not as much concerned about building authority and monitoring authority, and you just need to propagate your links lower tier, like to the second, third tier, massive number of links. Mm, it's great for link building work. Um, it's still there are, like, for those who create do SEO work for their clients based on the number of links. Surprising or not, there's still a lot of people charge per number of links created to their website, and it's obviously great for give a quick test drive to RankWyz and see what you can get over long term if you start later on building your own block networks. Again, comparing own networks and shared network, one of the complexity a lot of new members, especially new members, are facing is the relatively complex setup at the beginning. You have to create project, you have to create networks inside a project, Web2, social bookmarking. You have to add blogs and social accounts, and this is where many realize that it's not ready to use solution. You have to use your own or order blogs and social accounts. Only then you can create submission and start posting. And the major drawback toward a quick start is it's very important to warm up blogs. Start posting with no links, then might be with authority links, to make sure that they're not suspended. Majority of Web2 sites have suspend accounts at the very beginning once they detect posts that doesn't meet the guidelines. And after several posts made with no links, or might be with authority links, it's much easier to post links to your own site. Opposite to own network, shared network is just literally a few steps. You create a project, you create submission, and you start posting. You don't need to add blogs and social accounts, and more important, you don't need to wait until they aged, because this is all done by RankWyz. So in the next step, I'll do a demo of a quick start. And again, steps are create a project, create submission, and start. Because it's so-called push submission, so you configure submission once and you start it, and later on you add links to be posted whenever you need. I will demonstrate how it works. This is RankWyz account, and I go to projects and I click create quick start project. This is step 1, and you see that there is no new tab right on the project level for submissions. You go to submissions, and in the corner you see Web2 submission and bookmarking submission. On the project level, you can create submissions that will be posted to shared networks. To create a Web2 submission, I click new submission. I give it a name. You can see that it's pre-selected to post in shared network. You can select the network that most related to the niche of the links you wanted to post. You have, and we're planning to add more, so feel free to suggest us networks. Once you select a network, you will select the content will be posted, and it's related to the relevant to the topic of the network. So if it's business, you can create content that will be posted that is relevant to business network, let's say internet marketing, or where's my home business. So if you go to health, so you have different type of content, home and family, and so on. So basically, this is how we ensure that everyone posts relevant content on the network, so then everyone can be confident that their content, their links will not be posted with completely irrelevant content. So I selected business, home business for content. The next configuration is how many times each URL will be posted. So let's say I have my URLs to be backlinked, and this is the settings of how many times you want this URL to be posted across blogs. So default is 3, but let's say you can do 100. You can have even more. It depends on your plan limit, on number of post credits you have, and to make sure that it look natural, you can spread posts. Let's say you can do it over a week, might be 2 weeks. So basically, with this configuration, every URL you post will be posted 100 times, spread over 14 days. So that will create a naturally look distribution of your links across a massive number of Web2 blogs managed by RankWyz. So I'll change it back to 5 to simplify for the sake of the demo, and save. So once I saved it, you see that there is a submission. It's activated and it's ready to be posted. And again, with a new approach from RankWyz, you don't need to create new submission every time you create a URL. So this submission is waiting for your link to be ready to post it. So now let's say take this URL from Business Week, and I go to URLs tab, and I click Add New URL. So you can list multiple anchors to be randomly used, and add URL. One URL scheduled to be added. You can see that according to settings, 3 posts, more than 3, 5. I changed it to 5. 5 posts has been created, and if I do preview, you can see that link is embedded and it's relevant content to the for the business blogs. Okay, I'll delete it, and we'll go back to a more complex use case. So in this example, I used simple setup when your URL embedded directly in the content. But if you're familiar with the link profiles, you can create link profile and have a better control of how your link placed in the content. And the steps are, first you create link profile and link template, and then you follow the steps as an above. So you create a project, you create submission and select the link profile, and then start. And it will be, the submission will be waiting for a link to be posted whenever you need. So first I'll create a link profile. So you go to link profiles and create new profile. And again, so this is not an introduction to link profiles. So it's a pretty advanced solution of creating very control distribution of link anchors and profiles. So we have primary keywords, let's say, and let's say I'll make it simple, so I'll do 50% of secondary keywords, and it will be so we have more complex setup for with the generic keywords. You can do prefix and suffixes, but I will use a simple mix of primary and secondary keywords. So like we have 50% and 50%. Let's say I do preview, and you can see that anchors created. You can create a link template to format how you want your link to be used. We have two built-in simple templates, and again, this is not a demo on the how to use link profile and link templates, but this is simple link templates that create a resource box. So now I'm going to save it. It's a business profile. So we have, and now I'm going back to our network and then create another submission. The same business network, the same content. Let's say this time I will use internet marketing. The same, like I will not change, but let's say I've used 5 over 1 day. And if you go to advanced, so you have an option now to select the business profile or the link profile and a template, basically how you want to format and where in the content you want to place it. So we'll put it in the bottom because it's resource box. So I saved it, and there's submission ready to be posted. So this is the content that will be used, and each URL will be posted 5 times, spread over 24 hours. So now I'll take the same URL, go to URLs tab, add new URL, paste it, and as you notice, it is a text area, so you can paste multiple URLs, as many as you need. You still can provide anchors, but since we use link profile, so there's no need to do so. So like we use URLs. One is added. You can see 5 posts created, and the preview already available. You can see that using predefined content and predefined network make it extremely fast. So we have URL to be posted, we have 5 blocks, and I can preview them. You can see a resource box at the bottom. It says to learn more about business work from home. Okay. Next. Well, next is a little bit of diagram to summarize what just said before so far. So we have number of networks created with 10,000 plus blocks in each, and we take the job on maintaining those numbers in, and the solution we made guaranteed that the content that will be posted over is relevant to the content. So basically user have option to select from predefined content selection. In exactly same way we have in exactly the same way as Web 2 blocks, we have bookmark and managed networks, and it's again they're grouped into networks, and we maintained and replace accounts on the in each network. And this is diagram for setup. You create a project, you create a submission, you select a network where you want it to post, and it's there, it's waiting. And every time you have a link or multiple links to post, you just add them to the submission, and they will be posted according to your settings. Every URL will be posted requested number of times and spread over, and the post spread over over time. In exactly the same way, bookmarking submissions. You create submission, you select the network, and you select links to post. So I'm going back to the network, and now this time I click bookmarking submission, and so it's required you enter tags because it's a bookmarking. And again, you have a settings to how many times to bookmark every URL, and if you want to spread them, let's say spread them over 24 hours, and every bookmark will be posted 10 times. And they will be posted over shared network, and you have a list of networks. Again, it will be business. So submission ready to be posted. I go to URLs, select URL, added one or multiple URLs to be posted. And I see that 10 posts were created. I go to posts tab, and you can preview them. They all pulled from the actual page title and description. And this is basically very quick setup of 3 submissions, like the one was demo, so like one with a one Web 2 submission, one social bookmarking submission is just extremely easy to set up. I'll delete URL. And now we briefly cover more complex setup is submission chaining or automatic backlinking. So what it does is we can create still using RankWyz networks. We can create, let's say, a Web 2 submission, and after that set up a lower tier submission, let's say bookmarking, or another Web 2 submission that will automatically use the created post and the higher level in the lower level. So basically you create tiers, and that would be here like a slight change. We create a project, we create Web 2 submission, we create bookmarking submission, and every time we'll add a URL to be posted, a Web 2 submission, it will be posted over the shared network. And then according to configuration, every URL created will be posted in the lower tier. So the sequence in this case, you create lower tier submission, let's say bookmarking, and then you create higher tier submission, Web 2, and you configure Web 2 submission to send automatically links to S2, lower tier. So every time you add URL, let's say you configure this to be posted 10 times, every URL, and then lower tier you post it to be posted another 10 times, also 10 times. And you configure like Web 2 submission to send links down to bookmarking. So we add URL and will be posted 10 times over your Web 2, and it goes to spread over 10,000 plus blocks on our Web2 network, and every URL will be automatically sent to bookmarking and then used 10 times to be bookmarked over bookmarking network. So basically, you creating the a huge power, backlinking power without pretty much an autopilot. So I go back to the setup, and because we already have bookmarking submissions, as I said, so if we start with the low tier. So I created a bookmarking already, and then I go to Web2 submission. All the same settings you have, let's say 10 times, spread over a day, and then so you decide to use profile or just place them random. It's but if you go to automation, send successful pause for bookmarking, this is where you can select the lower tier bookmarking submission, and then it will be creating a chain. Every time you add a URL to Web2 and it's completed, it will be sent down to bookmarking for a low tier. Of course, you can chain Web2 to Web2 and in any combination. And the last step is integration with the RSS monitor. It's a one extra step. Let's say you have that's another step toward complete automation of your post syndication through the RankWyz managed network from your blog. Let's say your blog is outside of RankWyz, and you making post on the blog once in a while, like you might post every day, or next time you might post once a week. So what do you do in this case? You set up RankWyz RSS monitor, and it will be checking feed, and as soon as the new post discovered, it will be set to the chain of submission. You can send, let's say, every post to Web2 submission, and after that every post successful over Web2 blocks will be sent for low tier Web2 or bookmarking. So basically what do you do? So first you set submissions, and after that you set up RSS monitor and configure sending new post URLs for multi-level backlinking. And if I switch to diagram, so that will be might be a little bit more demonstrative. So we have it's a little bit change. It's a slide change from the previous slide. When we have already a Web2 submission posting to bookmarking submission, but now we have RSS monitor that watches your blog, and every time you have a post, it will be sending down the chain. So as you can see, with this approach, you might configure only once your syndication channel in RankWyz, and pretty much let it run on autopilot, because every time you make a post on your blog, or it might be commerce site, it could be any site that has RSS feed, and you adding content frequently. So every time the new post discovered new URL, it will be automatically sent to submission, and will be posted over the RankWyz managed networks, creating automatic backlinking. So if, let's say, you have a blog on the home business, let's say, theme, so you set up it exactly same as I showed. So you use home business network, select a home business content. You have a bookmarking, or you can even create multiple tier. It's again based on your needs, your requirements, and your usage plan of how many posting credits you have. You can create, let's say, blogs. Every blog post will be posted, let's say, 50 times over a week, and then you send those links to the second tier. It will be another 20 times for every URLs over another week. So basically it creates massive snowball effect of backlinking. Then every link will be sending down to bookmarking. So you can now configure a very complex multi-tier structure that does not require a lot of effort. And I'm not going to go into complete setup, but basically you go to RSS monitor, you create new monitor, you give it a name, enter feed URL, you enter how many times to, this is a one-time set up. If let's say your existing post, you want to RankWyz to go how many days back to pull the URLs, and then you configure to send every URL to blogging or bookmarking submission. In our setup, as I showed, so you will set your URL feed and you'll send them to Web2 blogging, and once blogging completed, because it's configured to send down to bookmarking, it will create automatically second tier. So back to summarize all this, it's again not very short video. So we now have RankWyz managed network, and we take all the work on maintaining required number of level of blogs. We warm them up before we start. We're letting user to pass over those blogs, and we all configure it in the background. So for you, if you okay with passing off on the shared blogs, that will be extremely simple and simple setup. So you go to you create a project, you create submission, you start posting your links. So you don't need networks, and again, so it's as simple as going to projects, creating new project, and once you create a project, you have a submission tab. You don't need to deal with the networks, blogs, maintenance. So you will see your links posted literally in a minute as soon as you start using RankWyz. This is all, and thank you for watching. Thank you for using RankWyz.